Welcome to Sueños De Dios. On this special edition of Sueños De Dios, our very own Star is going to explain to us how we can survive anything with God's help.
Okay, so today's message was inspired by two men from the Bible named Paul and Silas. Paul and Silas were two men who loved God with all their hearts, and they wanted to share the good news of God's love with everyone they were in contact with. They could be in contact with. So Paul and Silas shared the good news of God's love with many people, and many people accepted God's love in their lives. But of course, some didn't. Some people hated Paul and Silas because they wouldn't stay quiet about God's love. Paul and Silas were beaten and abused many times because of their love for God and because their love of sharing the good news of God's love with other people. One time in particular, Paul and Silas were thrown in a Roman prison. Now, I want you guys to take a moment to pause and just to think about how do you think they felt in this prison? A Roman prison can feel a lot like how we're feeling now under this pandemic, under quarantine, under social distancing while everything's closed. They might have felt lonely, scared, worried. They might have felt uncertain of when they were going to be free back into the real world of sharing the good news. And that's probably how some of us are feeling right now. When is this going to be over? When are we going to get back to our normal daily lives? So the Bible says in Acts 16:25-26, "And at midnight Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken. And immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosened." So although Paul and Silas were thrown in prison, they didn't let that keep them from praising God. They chose joy in uncertain times. Why? Because they were filled with God's love. So to show you guys a visual example of being filled with God's love, we have a few balloons here. So when we're not filled with God's love, any little thing like, let's say, a bad grade on a test can pop us, can put us in a bad mood or make us sad. So if we're not filled with God's love, any little thing can break us or take our joy and happiness away. So one more time. But when we're filled with God's love, when we're filled with His joy and His peace and His happiness, what do you think will happen? Do you think we'll easily be blown away by the trials and tribulations of this world, or do you think we'll be okay? So this balloon is a little different, and take the time to look at it. What makes this balloon a little different from the rest, and that is that it's filled with water inside. So it's like us. If we're filled with God's love, we won't be easily popped or broken or taken down by fires or by a quarantine or a pandemic or bad grades. When we're filled with God's love, God's joy, and God's peace and happiness, we can have it at all times, even during difficult and uncertain times. So I hope this encourages you guys today. We miss you and can't wait to see you back.
So boys and girls, remember that if you stay connected with God and have the presence of God in your life, you can make it through anything. You can make it through fire. You won't get popped. You won't go down. You can do it because of God's presence. And we especially remember that this week as we remember the 10-year anniversary of the fire at Branches, which destroyed the old building. But since God is so faithful, God has provided us with an even better building now. And that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure to stay connected with God and be filled with the presence of God. Because with God, all things are possible. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed week. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page.